Winners win. I'm a winner. We're going to win.
Gators Breakdown, because there's never a dull moment in Gator Nation.
The Gators Breakdown podcast is ready to go. I'm your host, David Waters. You can find me on social media at GatorDave_GB, and hopping on with me for this episode of Gators Breakdown, Keith Niebuhr from Gators Online, the On3 network. Keith, I think for the first time, man.
I think so. It's such an honor, Dave. I mean, no, but it is. And I appreciate, look, I mean, the other media people in our market, yourself included, are always great to On3 and Gators Online, and we do appreciate it.
Yeah, I mean, look, I hope this goes out there a lot. You guys are my go-to when, for things that I can't keep up with and catch up on. Everybody, I have a separate job out there and stuff. And, my opinions are my opinions and my thoughts are my thoughts. But for a lot of the news gathering, I value your guys' opinion as well. Like I said, I've had Corey on plenty of times, Blake on plenty of times. But one reason,
so I'm number three. I'm number three out of those guys. I see how it is, Dave.
Well, to be fair, when I started with those guys, you were on a different orange and blue beats with the Auburn Tigers, of course. But
totally cool, man.
Yeah, Keith. But you and I've got to talk a good bit. Seeing each other in person in the press box at Gator football games and talking here and there. But certainly appreciate the work you guys do there at Gators Online. And expansive army over there covering these Gators.
Appreciate it. Dave sits behind me in the press box, like right behind me, so he gets to see all my freakouts, all my arguments with Zach, which usually I start, and you get it all. You get a front row to everything. But
those conversations are fun. I wish people could see that sometimes.
Well, there's never any shortage. I mean, look, there's so much. It's got to be cool from your point of view to do what you do, because there's never any shortage of material. There really is.
Never a dull moment in Gator Nation, Keith.
Yeah. There's a few schools like that, but I wouldn't say every school's like that,
Yeah. Yep. So always keeping us busy for sure. Sure. So everybody hit that like button as we get started right here. Leave some comments, subscribe right here on YouTube or your favorite podcast platform if you haven't done so yet. And be sure to join Gators Breakdown Plus if you haven't done so yet. GatorsBreakdownPlus.com is where you can find that. Starting at $3 a month, get you access to that Discord. We have those chats there as well, of course. And ad-free episodes of Gators Breakdown. You can find it right there, GatorsBreakdownPlus.com. So, guys, I wanted to bring Keith on because Keith's been pretty instrumental in letting a lot of info out there especially when a lot of these coaching hires were happening, of Buster Faulkner in the Georgia Tech storyline, and a lot from Georgia Tech. And then Marcus Davis, the wide receiver coach coming from Auburn, where Keith had some connections, of course, covering Auburn before he came back and covered Florida. And then just so much information. Eric Singleton as well, as we'll get into. So as we got to hear from these wide receiver coaches, I was like, man, Keith's the one avenue I have to go to get this. So Keith, we'll get into a lot of it, but Florida bringing in two wide receiver coaches here, inside receivers coach, outside receivers coach. You got Trent McKnight, who's a passing game coordinator as well. And as I mentioned, Marcus Davis coming over from Auburn. So pretty neat setup here for this coaching staff with, Buster Faulkner, the offensive coordinator, but bringing in two wide receiver coaches.
Yeah. I'm texting somebody right now. Yeah, absolutely. And, it's interesting because we used to be, all of us spent the last 4 years making fun of the previous staff for having two offensive line coaches. Now we don't know where to turn. Oh, it's different this time. Yeah. So, but you hope it is, and they know what they're doing. Look, Trent McKnight's an interesting one. I was looking this up because I knew about Marcus Davis. He played at Auburn when I covered Auburn. Okay. He was on that Miracle 2013 team with the Hail Mary Dave and the kick six and all that stuff, and was a very good player. And he was always one of Gus Malzahn's favorite players. And just a hardworking guy, bright guy, so much so that when he finished, actually, did you want me to talk about Marcus now, or what do you?
Yeah, go ahead. We'll get to it, but go ahead. Yeah.
Well, when he finished his Auburn football career, before long, they got him a job in the recruiting office. They wanted to keep around. He's just a personable guy. He's like the nicest young kid. All right. But he's also got South Florida ties. And it turns out, he went to FSU, and then he went to Hawaii, and then Georgia Southern. He does have some experience for a young guy, and he's got some recruiting chops. Obviously you're getting guys now largely, or a lot of it at least, because of NIL, but they still got to have a relationship with you. They still got to feel like you can develop them. And he he's done Cam Coleman, Eric Singleton. There's some other guys at Auburn. I mean, so I like this setup. And Trent McKnight, I'm looking at, I wanted to look that up now. You know, he comes from Georgia Tech, as everybody knows, where he was a receivers coach. But I think before that, I think he was an OC somewhere else. Like, he's got real experience. This is a guy that's an up and comer too now. And I'll find that next time you're talking. But he was at Georgia State. He was an offensive coordinator. So again, Dave, you're bringing in guys that, like Joe Craddock, quarterbacks coach, but he was an OC at Tulane. He was an OC at SMU under my buddy Chad Morris. He was an OC at Arkansas under Chad Moore. Maybe he was at both of them. I don't know. He was at OC at both. But so you're bringing in guys in this staff, like it feels like they belong, right? You got all these guys with Power 4 experience, and the guys that don't, it feels like they're rising stars. But I like the setup at receiver.
Yeah, and then Trent McKnight, with one of his sound bites, he came out and said he really likes the 2 wide receiver coach setup, as it allowed the wide receivers to go through more reps in practice. Because they brought it up with the kind of air raid principles, and that was something that they did with the air raid in the practice setup. Was, hey, this was the 2 wide receiver coaches allowed us to get more reps with these receivers. So they're setting it up like that during practice. And so more reps in practice with eyes on them, and during a play, it allows the coach on each side of the formation with eyes on the wide receiver. So they see what somebody might be on the left side, somebody might be on the right side, and they know what each side is doing, instead of having to widen out and try to get everybody in one view or wait till a film review. But McKnight believes the wide receiver position is undercoached and underdeveloped in college football. So I thought that was pretty interesting. We'll get into some more sound bites where we hear it, but he just comes out and says, hey, one reason we want 2 wide receiver coaches is because this position group is underdeveloped and undercoached in college football. He makes a good point. And let me point out one other thing. Florida retained 2 guys from the previous staff that also work with the receivers, David Decker and Chad Lucas. Chad Lucas played in the NFL. Right? So now you really say you got 4 guys and probably some other guys too. You get about 4 guys that are legit. Marcus Davis started in the SEC, Trent McKnight, former OC at Georgia State, known as being a really good developer of talent at Georgia Tech. So, Chad Lucas cut his teeth in the NFL and solid recruiter as well. David Decker, known as a kind of let me put it this way. A year ago at this time, David, I was interviewing Shamir DK on the telephone, and he was telling me all about David Decker. And look, man, this guy was really big in he didn't want to sell Billy Gonzalez short or Chad Lucas, but he was working with Deck, and he felt like the David Decker was really instrumental in his development during that 1 year at Florida. So again, these guys are getting a lot of coaching. And if you want to look at the receiver room, David, and it's solid, man. Right. Yeah.
But there's also some unproven talent. And there's guys like Dallas Wilson, who he showed flashes, but he was hurt. But they need constant development. It's like in sales, if you're not growing, you're falling behind. If you're not progressing as a college football player, you're falling behind. You're getting past. So continued development. And listen, I mean, we're going to talk about him, I guess, later, but Eric Singleton doesn't go to Florida if he doesn't feel like these guys are the guys that can boost his draft status, because he was already going in the NFL draft and was going to get drafted. Okay. And he's supposedly a very strong route runner, but he felt like there were a couple things he needed to work on, and these were the guys that could do it. Trent McKnight, who he worked with in his freshman and sophomore years at Georgia Tech, and Marcus Davis, who he worked with in his junior year at Auburn. So, man, what a good blend there. You know what I mean? Yeah, for sure. For sure. As Keith just said. So we will hear from both of these coaches as they discuss DB3, Dallas Wilson, the transfer wide receivers, and if we have some time, what they said about the freshman receivers as well. But let's get it started, Keith, with some sound bites here from these guys. And they're kind of discussing features of the offense and how they may use their players.
I'll push for what it takes to win a football game, right? We want to be multiple, and then that's some of what we'll figure out in the spring, like who are your best 5 skill players, right? Like you got to figure some of that out. We went some where we'd line up with 5 wide receivers this past year, somewhere we'd line up with none, right? So, I mean, you mix it up. We're going to base out of a lot of 3 receiver sets, but have the ability to get into 10 personnel. And a lot of it's what the guys do when we get into spring practice, right? Like, who are your best players? Let's get our best players on the field. Let's find a way to get them the ball in space so they can go make plays. So that's all dependent. Some of it's going to be scheme, what we're trying to take advantage of, right? And then a lot of it's also going to be us getting our best guys out there on the field.
You've had a couple of wide receivers along with Singleton that have been used in the running game as well, Calvin Turner as well. Just being able to do that and work out of the backfield, how much do you think that just kind of takes the receiver's ability to the next level?
Yeah, it's just giving position flexibility. The more you could do, the better you are, the more valuable you are. So the position flexibility is a big thing in this offense. It's a big thing in receiver play. And when you got a guy that you can move around, it forces the defense to show their hand or do something that they're uncomfortable doing. When you can have a receiver in the backfield, you get mixed matches with linebackers, and it just expand the game for the receivers.
Keith, man, the mark of a good offense for me is being able to kind of, dictate and or be able to adjust when things aren't going your way. So obviously not going to win every play, not going to win every game, but with those things, a mark of consistency for offense. So for this Florida offense, we know so much will be determined by what quarterback play looks like, but you should have the ability to go 4 or 5 wide when they want or when they need to. And look, but you also got one of the country's best running backs in Jaden Ball. So obviously you want the ball in his hands as well a lot too. So look, this isn't an offense that needs to live in an air raid, nor is it an offense that needs to run the ball 40, 50 times a game. Or, if we just look at what we just saw with this Gator team and this offense, be so reliant on the run game for any type of consistent success. But I look at this offense and you talked about the players and we talk about the coaching staff and what these guys just said. Yeah, for me, honestly, and kind of for you too, but we all remember the Spurrier days, and that offense dictated. It didn't. Very rarely did the 11 guys on that opposing defense going against Steve Spurrier, very rarely did they dictate anything on the field. He was dictating. And I get a sense Florida has, like I said, so much of it's going to be determined by quarterback play. But I like the talent at running back. I like the talent at wide receiver, just skill players. Florida should be able to do some dictating as long as the quarterback plays there.
Should be able to. And what was one of the staples of the Spurrier offense? A good running game, too.
Exactly.
Forget about that. Now, you think about post-Emmitt Smith. You're a Gator fan. You're a diehard Gator fan. Who are the 2 running backs that really come to mind? Don't just throw out some guy that had one good year. Who are the 2 guys that come to mind? It's probably going to be Eric Rhett and Fred Taylor, right?
Exactly. Yep.
All right. Well, who did they play for?
Yep.
How many receivers did Spurrier have? Spurrier also would put guys like Chris Doring and Willie Jackson at that. He'd line them up attached, so they were sort of like tight ends in a sense. And then they would have these mismatches against those old bulky SEC linebackers. You know what I mean? No chance in the world to cover those guys. I think Aubrey Hill even lined up, the late Aubrey Hill even lined up at that spot sometimes. But so this guy's motto, Buster Faulkner, the OC, is basically they want the defense to have to defend every blade of grass, right? Isn't that the kind of the theme? And that's, again, even 3-4 wide receivers. Listen, if they get the passing game going, imagine what Jaden Ball and Duke Clark and Evan Pryor and London Montgomery can do. You know what I mean? If the offensive line's clicking and all that stuff, or if one's not working, you can get the other one going.
Right.
Then in turn, should get the one that wasn't working earlier going, because the defenses are constantly having to adjust. And you knew last year defenses saw how erratic and inconsistent the passing game was, and they did not have to defend every blade of grass. J. Michael Sturdivant was brought in to basically stretch the field, take the top off the defense. I didn't think he was a bad player, by the way. I'm not knocking him, but that didn't happen. There weren't really too many deep throws. And, it was just kind of this plodding offense, really, that took a lot of time off the clock and off the snap clock too. And, these guys are, even with Haynes King, who can't throw the ball as well as DJ Lagway, they attack the defenses. And Trent McKnight said something, David, I know you like this too. I'm sure your ears were perking up when you heard it. It was all about adaptability. If they do this, we're going to do this. Whatever we see in the spring, that's going to then, determine sort of how we go moving forward. I mean, they don't really know what they have yet. They need to get out there and see it. Once they see who these guys are and identify guys that can do what they want to do and can't do what they want to do, but maybe can do something else and whatever, then they'll start being able to formulate something. But I think spring practice is really, let's just figure out what we as a staff, what we have, what we're coaching, and then go from there. But Buster Faulkner's greatest attribute, supposedly, according to everybody, not just John Summerall, is that he adapts and he evolves, right? And, I think people, when it became, a lot of people, David, you'll remember, thought that Brent Key, Georgia Tech's head coach, was a candidate for the Florida job. We did too.
Yeah, you and I had this conversation. I think I know where you're going with it.
I think he was sort of on the lists and stuff, but I mean, your list sometimes goes real long. But the point was, we had a lot of people on our message boards and probably in your chat too that said, boy, I don't know. I don't love their offenses. They're sure running a lot. Well, they were running a lot because they had Haynes King at quarterback, who, by the way, finished 10th in the voting for the Heisman Trophy this past year, but he's not a passer. He'll throw for 2,500 yards, and he'll have games where he can get close to 300 or in that range, but he is a true dual threat passer. He was their leading rushing attempt guy last year, okay? That should tell you, that's all you need to know right there. So
those passing lanes were open because they ran him.
Yeah. It's going to look different. I mean, again, like you said, you mentioned air raid earlier. I mean, Buster Faulkner played at Valdosta State. Okay. He coached at Central Arkansas. He coached all over the place.
I was raised in South Georgia. You know how many times I heard the word air raid?
Yeah.
In the late 90s.
Where were you? What town were you from?
Blackshear, where Stetson Bennett was from.
Okay.
So all of our high school guys, they went to camp at Valdosta State.
Yeah.
So,
it
was very popular in that area, and blew up.
I didn't mean to interrupt. I'm sorry. That's the talent they had. I mean, you probably I'm not breaking anything to the people that watch your show regularly. You told them all this, but point for anybody that's new, they did what they had to do to move the ball. And by the way, they were one of the most efficient offenses, not only in the ACC. You say, ACC. Well, the ACC got a team to the championship game, and I know the depth of the conference isn't great, but the point is, they did what they could with the talent they had. So now he gets to Florida. It's a different kind of talent, right? It's a different kind of talent, and we'll see. We'll see what they can do. But they're going to have guys that can throw the ball. We know that, whether it's Aaron Follow or Tramel Jones. We know they've got a very good running back room. We think the offensive line, I don't know if we don't know, right? That's a big unknown, but we think, like Egan Boyer was the projected starting left tackle at Penn State if he comes back, right? Harrison Moore was the starting center at Georgia Tech for 9 games last year. So he's probably a step down. We think, to be fair to him, we don't know, but Jake Slaughter was an All-American. Austin Barber, 3rd team All-SEC. So Boyer's doing this. We don't know what he's going to be yet, but if the offensive line, if these new guys are what they think they can be, they should have a serviceable offensive line and maybe even better than that. Well, then you look at the receiver weapons, and I feel like, I don't know about tight end. That's the one thing. Yeah. Faulkner, Dave, you watch NFL. Dave, I always call you Dave. David. Okay. When you watch, you're an NFL guy, probably. You're a Jacksonville guy, but a lot of offenses go through the tight end in the NFL. You know what I mean? Yeah. And Buster Faulkner had some quotes a couple weeks ago that said, "Hey, we want some dynamic playmakers at tight end. You got to have the blocking guys too, but maybe Amir Jackson's that guy. Maybe one of these guys they brought in can be that guy, and 2-3 more yards a catch from a tight end, big difference. Big difference. Yeah,
McKissick, I think, spoke to the media today, so I'll probably try to have that later this week. Yeah. We'll talk some tight ends for sure.
I'm all over the board here. I'm sorry, but
so I think what I take away from this, and kind of going to your point, Keith, is there's a lot of evidence with Buster Faulkner, and it's not lip service. The best guys are going to get on the field, and he's going to find unique ways to use them. We've heard all these guys, all these coaches so far, and I don't think it's lip service, but man, they mentioned speed, and they've mentioned speed a lot for this team. And hey, look, McKnight mentioned they prefer wide receivers to learn as many spots as they can, but it's a case-by-case basis. Guys are going to have to learn all the spots because the staff wants them with multiple formations. Quote, try to show the defense different pictures. At the same time, they don't want to limit someone's development. If they're having trouble learning different positions, they want to throw a lot at them this spring, see how they handle it with the new offense, but they're not going to sacrifice development. So ideal scenario is to be able to learn multiple receiver spots, but they're not going to force it on them. So I think that's pretty interesting and see how that's going to work out.
Yeah, and I think they got some dynamic. They got a little bit of everything in the receiver room. I think, ideally maybe you want one more big guy, but I think the three main guys we know about, Vernell Brown, Dallas Wilson, and Eric Singleton. But, by the end of the year last year, not Tank Hawkins, TJ Abrams. I always get those two names mixed up. By the end of the year, TJ Abrams, remember, he kind of, if we're going to be honest with you, I don't know what the word is. I don't want to say choke, but he ran the a route short of the sticks at Miami when they're driving to take the lead in the third quarter. And that, who knows what happens, right? And he had some miscues early in the season. By the end of the season, I thought he was a pretty dang good player, Dave. He was doing some good things. So, he's got potential. Bailey Stockton probably be a guy that could bat, on 4 receiver sets, could potentially be that fourth guy at times, or in your second wave of guys, a precise route runner who refuses to lose. Micah Mays from Wake Forest played for Eric Kresser down at what was the school, Palm Beach Benjamin. And, we'll see what he can do. Then they got the kid in from, was it Javante Green, I want to say? I hope I'm getting
Jalen Lloyd.
Javante Green. Jalen Lloyd, not even close. Jalen Lloyd from Oklahoma State.
There's some sound on him too. We'll get to.
Yeah, and he didn't do much there. He only played a couple games and then just said, "I'm out of here," because they fired Gundy. But at Nebraska, he was a big play guy with a lot of speed. So maybe you can catch lightning in a bottle, right? So you're looking at the guys, and then the guys you brought in from the high school class. There's a lot of potential there. There's a lot of potential there. And the one I really like is the kid from Buchholz, to be honest. I know everybody's pointing to Gross and having Gross, deservedly so. But
on this point, we're talking about what they said. Gross and Williams, both these guys were able to move around in high school. Played in the backfield, played wide receiver, and with this offense and how they're saying we want these guys in multiple spots, we want them in the backfield. Both those guys already proven they can do it.
Hold on, they really going to take carries away from Jaden Ball?
No.
A couple of games.
Creative, exactly. There you go.
Yeah. Now, I think something that people may be thinking about is, okay, I looked at the stats of Georgia Tech last year, and Haynes King ran. That's not going to happen this year, obviously. Whether it's Aaron Philo or Tramel Jones, we think it's going to be one of those two guys. I think
enough to keep them honest. That's
enough to keep them honest. They can run when they need to, but those carries will go to Ball. And here's the other thing: the running backs can catch the ball out of the backfield too. Yep. So it just seems like there's a lot of dynamic playmakers there, and sometimes you have to make a substitution to bring in a guy to do something, and then when you're bringing him in, the other team knows why you're bringing him in, right?
Yeah.
But if you got guys like you're talking about and they're talking about that can do a bunch of different things, then you keep them guessing, right? You keep them guessing.
For sure.
And you may catch them in a position where they've got the wrong guy out there to defend what's coming. You know what I mean? So there's a lot of things they're going to be able to do. But again, it's hard for me and you not to get in the fans, the cart ahead of the horse. And we don't even know how much we're going to learn in the spring, right? I remember Spurrier's first, Dave, I'm very old. I was a freshman at Florida.
You don't look at Keith. You don't look.
Well, Spurrier's first fall practice, all you were reading about in the Alligator every day in the Gainesville Sun was, my God, the defense is killing these guys. Are they going to be able to get a first down when they play Georgia? You know what I mean?
And that turned out to be a really good defense, though, by the
way. It was, but except for like 2 games, the Tennessee and FSU game. But again, you didn't know. You really don't know. But they're going to get a better picture of what they have. And obviously what they're doing off season, the weight room and all that's going to matter too. And we'll see the results of that more in the fall than you would in the spring. But I love the receiver room. I think there's just a lot of potential. Look, Dave, you lost some good guys, but Eugene Wilson, as good as he was at times, and boy, he was really good in his last game when he played against Georgia. He's damn good, right?
Right.
But if you ain't playing every week, your value just plummets because, and by the way, he needs, and I wish him the best. I always liked him and liked him personally. He's got to stay healthy. And because when you get to the NFL, if you're not playing every week, you're like, look at Tua, your value just, you're really not worth anything. But so Eric Singleton has missed 1 game in his college career. So you replace a guy, and quite frankly, he's faster than Eugene Wilson.
Save that thought, Keith.
Oh, go ahead.
Because that is going to be a speaking point right there on Singleton. Let's go. Let's go Gators that we know. Dallas Wilson, VB3, McKnight, Davis, their thoughts on those guys.
So VB, starting with him, just mature, really mature for his age, right? I think even you're out there at the gauntlet today, you see the leadership that he has. he's got a pro mindset right now. So I've been really impressed with him and excited too, because we looked at it the other day. I think he was right around 450 snaps this past year. So excited to see how he progresses, but do feel like he's a guy that can play 3 spots within our offense. They think he can really play every position at the receiver spot, right? He can play inside, outside. He can play F, Z, or X. And then 10 personnel can get into some of the Y stuff. But when I first got here, he was one of the first people in the building. He's wanting to get on the playbook. He's wanting to learn. He's wanting to get better. So for a young guy, I've been really impressed with the maturity and also the leadership that he has. And, you know, sometimes for young guys, it's hard to hold other people accountable. He has no problem doing that. On Dallas, I think Dallas was probably right around 150 snaps this past year, but the biggest thing with Dallas so far, one, I think he is a smart football player, got high football IQ. But the other thing is just the presence and energy that he lights up a room, right? So, like, anytime you're around Dallas, I think he's got that infectious personality where he will affect the group. And so I can't wait for really see both of them go out there in spring and make plays.
What are your impressions of the skill set Dallas Wilson brings to the table?
Yeah, I think one of the best things that he got going for himself is like play strength. Super strong guy, and then he's another guy that's super smart. You know, you ask him a question one time or you tell him to do something one time, he's like a sponge. He could do it, you know, and so he got really good recall, and his play strength is what separated him so far. Now, obviously, I hadn't seen him in pads yet. You're going to see more of that or more of what he could do once you put on the pads. But I think just from initially, you could tell that his play strength and his recall sticks out.
Keith, super smart, good recall. Like, if I had to choose things to hear about Dallas Wilson right now, those are the things I think I want to hear. Because, look, we know, I hope all that stuff rings true, because even on a limited sample size, I think most of us agree that physical presence he brings goes a long way. But it'll be that mental side that makes him a special player in a new offense. Like, we didn't really get a chance to see how much he could handle last season due to injury. But if he can put, you know, that behind him, get this new offense down, then watch out, because he's the type of receiver that's going to make VB3 Singleton that much better. Like, that's just, I wanted to hear the mental side, but and so I'm glad it just came up unsolicited. And that's what they brought up, is the mental side. Hey, that's what we like about this kid right now. The physicality is there. We saw it. I think we know, even on that small sample size, it's there. I got what I wanted to hear about Dallas Wilson.
And by the way, Dallas Wilson, nobody really cares what I'm about to say, but he can block the hell out of people too. All right. He is very physical. I got lucky. I saw both those guys play a good bit in high school, and everything they described, they're Trent's coach. All right. He's a lot smarter than I am, but everything he said, I was like, God, he's right. He's right. I'll tell you what, and Marcus too, it's interesting how perceptive they are of these two receivers in such a short period of time. That tells you how smart coaches are. They know what they're looking for. They you know what I mean? Like, they know. when a guy walks in the room, what is his presence, right? And they know what they're looking for. But no, I thought that was interesting, and I felt like they nailed it when it comes to like describing two guys that I've followed since they were 16 years old, right? Vernell Brown, I've always called him a pro's pro. He's a professional in college. I don't mean the NIL stuff. I mean, he shows up to work, and he's clean cut, and he is ready to roll. I mean, he is all about the business when he gets in that building, and out the building, he's friendly, he's affable, and I think he's one of the better representatives the University of Florida's ever had. Ever. I think that's how strongly I feel about Vernell Brown. And Dallas is smart. He is, I don't know what the word I'm looking for. Remember that press conference after the game last year, the Texas game? He walked in, he said, first thing he said, you remember, how y'all doing? He knew he's a goof, right? He's a goof. They say him and Jeremiah McKnight are two of the funnier guys on the team, but he's smart. He's sharp. He knows that. And other players wanted to play with him. Like, he is. I like that he's, even as a freshman, like you said, that he was that comfortable being that way. Yeah. People like being around him. You know, and but no, I think they nailed it. And if they can they just need to continue to get better. Obviously, Dallas has to stay healthy and play. Vernell's just got to kind of continue working on his craft. I mean, he did a lot of things good last year, you know, but there's some, knowing him, he's probably focused on little things that you or I never saw, Dave, to be honest with you. That's who Vernell Brown is. And
for him, we know he played with a quarterback that couldn't get the job done last year.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
what is his production going to look like if that quarterback spot does just uptick to be a little more consistent?
Well, and even if maybe they don't want to hear this, but maybe even if Vernell's catches go down, it might be a longer yards per catch. It might be bigger plays. It might be more efficiency. It might be, individual stats be damned. You want the team, you'd rather score 40 points a game and 5 guys with over 30 catches than 21 points a game or whatever that garbage was last year.
Yeah. We're talking about 3 receivers here, Dallas, VB3, and Singleton. So come on, if it does go down, it might, like you said, it might be a good thing because of who else you got around him.
And, there's going to be games where the team, and I've had somebody talk about Eric Singleton, and they said, we'll talk about it later, but like this guy's he's going to be the guy that's double team more than the other 2 guys. Oh, really? But, there's going to be games where the matchup's just better for one of the guys than the other guys. And Dallas Wilson may get 1 catch, but he may be blocking the heck out of people, and he may be the world's greatest decoy, and that's valuable too. That all, they can do all 3 of these receivers can do so much. All right. They can catch the ball behind this line of scrimmage. They can go over the middle. We saw Vernell and Dallas do that. Singleton can do he can catch the bubbles. The bubbles are still going to be there. People get so mad at the bubbles, but if you get 5 yards, is that really bad? A 5-yard run, you're thinking, hey, that's a pretty damn good run, man.
Think of it as a run play.
Yeah. Now, in the old day, they used to joke in the late when I was a little kid in the 80s, they had a couple of offensive coordinators. What Lynn Amity was the guy that caught all the grief, and they said he had the horizontal offense, and people hated that. But you stretch the field, maybe you only get 4, and then the next play ball goes 19 right up the gut. So there's going to be a lot of options. But no, Trent McKnight, you know what I like about this staff so far? Buster Faulkner was sort of, in his press conference, he sort of kept a lot of it to himself. He wasn't giving too much away. But these guys are giving thoughtful answers and really I almost feel like I'm learning something every time I watch one of these guys talk or go through their transcripts. And I'm not saying relative to the last staff or anything like that. That's not my point. I'm just saying specifically with these guys, it
was hard to cut out. We have limits for how much we can use for being media tied with Florida. That's and right. I'm like, I can't play as much as I want to because these guys are giving a lot of good info.
Sharp guys, to be honest. What I like is Florida's going to get most of their players out of Florida and Georgia. And Trent McKnight's been working in Atlanta, and Marcus Davis is from South Florida, but has worked in Alabama and Georgia. And that's the bread and butter. They already know these kids. In fact, are we going to talk about Singleton later?
Right next.
I'll wait then.
Yep. So here we go. Key set the stage right here. We are going to hear from these 2 coaches here on Bailey Stockton first, because that's who's brought up first. A lot on Eric Singleton, and Jalen Lloyd is brought up as well.
With Bailey, phenomenal person, but he's tough. He's competitive. He's what you want to have in the locker room. I think he'll benefit. Obviously, he's a downfield receiver, and kind of what the offense will look like here. I think he's really going to benefit. Really good feel for zone coverage. Really good at scramble drills. So I think he'll really benefit from what we do here. And then Eric, it's been like riding a bike for him getting back in this. So Eric's a really smart player. I think he's quiet, but he's very smart. Goes about his business the right way. I think everything he's done right now, he's a pro in how he's going about it. Obviously, he has elite speed. We've looked at the portal really the last 2 years. I've probably watched most of the receivers that have been in there. And there's very few that can run as fast as Eric can.
Eric, a guy that, don't say much. And so for him to come and trust us with his last year, it means a lot. We're going to put our best foot forward to continue to develop him, to get him where he want to go. But it was a good process. He know the things that he wanted to focus on, and he felt like he could get that here with us. Eric, I tell him all the time, he's one of the more smarter players that I ever got the opportunity to coach. Super intelligent. He knows the game. And so at this point, I'm just challenging him to bring somebody with him, bring one of those younger guys with him, like the Grosses of the world or, Marquez, bring those younger guys, Justin, all those guys, making sure he bring them with him because he got that influence. He just got to use it in the right way like he's been doing.
We heard about his speed. How fast is he?
Yeah, he legit fast. I believe he ran like a 10-3, 10-4 at Georgia Tech. So he can roll.
We'll talk about Eric's speed, but he's also been, fairly durable and productive. What goes into that in your mind in terms of like how he plays and how he prepares himself to play?
I think it go back to his knowledge of the game. He ain't running the self-covered. If it's a zone play and it's a cover 2 corner and he got an out route, he know to sit it. So the dude just pick up the football game quick. And I think that's what helped him protect himself from hits or knowing when to, get extra yards or knowing when to go down. He just got a really good feel for the game.
Jalen Lloyd, obviously track speed. What did you see on his tape that made you want to bring him in, and what does he add to your unit this year?
Speed. Yeah, you seen him like as a freshman running past guys at Nebraska. And so, just seeing his speed and, you always want to add speed. If you can add speed, that's what you want to do, especially at the receiver position, because the receiver position is all about creating separation. And one way to do it, like Dallas Wilson is named play strength, and another way to do it is speed. And so we saw that, and that's what made him attractive.
Got Singleton speed?
Shoot, we'll see. But the kid, you cut on the tape and you see him taking outside posts for touchdowns, and so he definitely creates a lot of separation.
Speed and separation, Keith. That's what we want to hear from these wide receivers here. Going to your point, Keith, about these guys kind of revealing a little bit.
Yeah.
I want to go back to the Bailey Stockton talk because a downfield receiver, that might have opened some people's eyes because I think a lot of people maybe thought your typical slot receiver going over the middle, that might be what he brings to the table. But telling us that he's a downfield receiver kind of quote what the offense will look like. So maybe we are getting some hints that, hey, this is going to be an offense initially. We'll see what happens when we get into spring practice. But what we think of these players right now, what we think of the quarterback position and the wide receiver position, that, hey, this can be an offense that will live and throw the ball down the field when it presents itself.
Well, you mentioned Bailey Stockton, and I'm looking at his career stats at Georgia Tech, 38 catches, 439 yards, long catch of only 33, a long catch last season of only 27. So you say, well, wait a second. It doesn't sound like a downfield guy, but again, it was a different offense.
Yeah.
It was a different kind of offense. He was also playing behind one of the better receivers in Georgia Tech history. So, Bailey Stockton's a lot better than people probably. That makes it sound like I know more than everybody else. I'm not trying to come across like that. But if you go back to his high school career, and by the way, he started, I think, at Georgia Tech. Was he a walk-on, I want to say? But in high school, he played for a guy named Greg Vandegrift at Prince Avenue Christian with Aaron Philo. Greg Vandegrift is the father of former SEC quarterback Brock Vandegrift. And in high school, Bailey won, I want to say, a couple state titles. And in his last year, and I wrote about it, in week 1 or 2 of the playoffs, he broke his collarbone. And you think, okay, that's it. He played in the state championship game 3.5, whatever weeks later. And tough physical kid. In that game, he had a couple touchdowns. So he is a tough physical guy, faster than people think, and great hands, great route. I mean, like, he's going to be able to do something. And you also bring in a guy like that because when they're talking about how he is, and again, David, I'm sort of avoiding your question because I don't know how they're going to get him downfield. I don't know how.
Yeah.
I don't know. We'll see. But if you bring in a guy like that is ultra competitive, they know what they're doing. A lot of it is head games, right? A guy like that is going to win all these gauntlet things if you let him, right? And he's going to push the other receivers in the room because they're going to say, "Wait a second, I ain't going to let this guy do this too." And that helps too. All that stuff helps. But no, I think he's going to be a good, solid 20, 25 catch guy. I think that's what he is. I think he's going to be a guy that you're going to be able to rely on third down. I think he could be your first option as your fourth receiver in a lot of sets. I don't know. I mean, you go watch his film. He ain't dropping any passes, and he's got chemistry with Philo, who potentially could be your starting quarterback. I'm not ready to, we haven't even seen him throw one pass in the spring yet, but he's got chemistry with him. But, I think it's a good pickup, quite frankly.
Yeah. And these coaches went on to say too, I don't think I put it in this, but bringing in Singleton, bringing in, Stockton here, it's like almost an extension of the coaching staff because they know the offense. Or some of the terminology, everything that they can help spread amongst their peers in the wide receiver room. Keith, one of the major reasons I wanted to bring you on, man, because you were on top of the, Singleton sweepstakes for Florida. He was going to the draft, and then if he wasn't going to go to the draft, Florida would be in the mix, and he ends up at Florida, as you said. So I know you were working the phone lines pretty hard here for Singleton, and his journey to Florida. There was some. I think it was Summerall who brought it up about he was going to the Senior Bowl, and there was a connection that Summerall had at the Senior Bowl who said, hey, you might want to hold off here a little bit. Keith, set this up. I mean, what is Florida getting here in Singleton? I mean, the guy who can play inside, he can play outside. They just talk about the Olympic, potential Olympic speed that he has. I mean, it just really seems like Florida's just went and got a guy they really needed to put in that wide receiver room.
Yeah, I'd been tracking the guy for over a year, quite frankly, because I have connections at a few different schools, and I'd heard that he was probably going to leave Georgia Tech, and that Florida was a school that was interested when he was at Georgia Tech. And he ended up at Auburn, and it just worked out great for Florida. I mean, you think about the connections. Trent McKnight coached him at Georgia Tech. Marcus Davis coached him at Auburn. John Summerall, Buster Faulkner coached him at Georgia Tech. John Summerall, which I didn't know, when he was head coach at Troy, was the first head coach to offer him a scholarship, because he was not. It's funny. I don't know how this. I don't want to say he slipped through the cracks. He ended up at a Power 4 program, but for a guy as fast as Eric Singleton was, he wasn't generating a ton of buzz in high school. So John Summerall offered him early, and then some other bigger schools came, and he ended up at Georgia Tech. But it worked out perfectly when they knew that the chatter was out there that he was looking to, leave Auburn. Auburn wanted to keep him, by the way, Dave, and probably would have paid him a lot of money to stay. They wanted to keep him, but he was looking for something different. The staff was gone. He did at the time, there was a while that Auburn was trying to keep Marcus Davis, but then they hired somebody else to be the receivers coach. So if he was going to stay at Auburn, what role would he have? There was talk about different positions, and only the head coach at Auburn and his staff know what was really going on. But there was a lot of, nobody knew what was going to happen with Marcus Davis. So, but then Eric Singleton sort of surprised a few people at least and said, hey, man, you know what? I am going to go in the NFL draft. At first I thought he's going to Florida. He hadn't declared anything, but there was some chatter out there. He's not going to end up he's not going to stay at Auburn. He'll probably end up at Florida. Auburn people thought he was going to go to Florida, but then he declared for the draft. He went out to Arizona, worked out, but all players go out there to get ready for the combine and all that. And David, Florida never really, they didn't lose hope, right? Because, they didn't lose hope. And then what happened was the Senior Bowl executive, Drew Fabianich, was talking to John Summerall. He got good connection with him and the rest of the Florida staff. He said, hey, there is some chatter out here that he may, because he was playing in the Senior Bowl, he may decide to go back to college. So John Summerall told us stuff, all right, be ready. Because technically there's all these rules and all that, but be ready. The minute he entered the portal, and he did, Florida officially entered the portal, Florida was ready. They pounced on it. They had all the connections, but they had to prove to him, like Marcus Davis said, they had to prove to him that, listen, if you come back to college, one, you're going to make the money you want to make, because Texas Tech did come in, Dave. And when Texas Tech gets involved, it's a little bit of an eye-opener.
I was scared.
So they came in, they got involved, but Florida was able to hold him off largely because of those connections. I mean, obviously he's commanding a big salary. I get all that, but he could have got that at 20 other schools, right? So they kind of won him over. But these are the guys. Now you're going to have two coaches working with you. You're going to have an offensive coordinator who, by the way, David, at Georgia Tech, he averaged 13.5 yards a catch or more both seasons, dropped down under 10 yards a catch last year at Auburn. Huge difference, 4 yards a catch one year and like 5 1 year and 3 the other, or whatever, a lot. So he has those great ties with Buster Faulkner, and he was averaging 13 plus yards a catch with Haynes King at quarterback, where they really weren't stretching the field. So there were a lot of things that went into this, but it just made so much sense for Eric. I mean, he has confidence. What does it tell you about what he thinks about Aaron Philo?
Oh, you just read my mind. I was about to say, Keith, we're on the same wavelength here. I was like, to me, that's got to be somewhat of a vote of confidence.
Yeah. Well, and then you say, well, that's a vote of confidence for Philo. And if Tramel Jones can beat out that guy,
yes,
he must be pretty damn good. I mean, so, I think the floor of the QB room is raised.
Yep.
Because even if Tramel Jones ends up being your number 2, he's going to be a better number 2 this year than he was last year because he's more prepared, right? So, man, I don't know. I think Eric Singleton was one of the best pickups of the draft. A couple things that Marcus and Trent McKnight said that our experts at On3 as well told us. Clark Brooks, they said that, he's a great route runner. So we're only thinking about speed. They say he's a excellent high-level route runner. And I've also heard from people that knew him at Auburn, and that's where I always heard what was going on with him, with some of my old contacts. He's super smart. He's super smart. Marcus said that. So he's got a lot of attributes, but there were some things they wanted to work on. And John Summerall mentioned this, and he knew that to get his draft stock up. So why is a guy that runs a 4.2 as a projected as a 4th, 5th, 6th rounder? He's got to work on some things. So one of the things they got to work on is a little more twitch, a little more COD, right? A little more change of direction. So that's going to be the points of emphasis. And if he can do that, all the other pieces are there. Perfect complementary piece to the other receivers. Should be good for those guys too, by the way. So
yeah. And we mentioned it earlier. You talked about Trey Wilson.
Yeah.
I want to go back to something you said earlier, and we talked about it. Singleton's not missing games. Trey Wilson could barely stay healthy. As you said, I love the kid. I love the kid to death, but he couldn't stay on the field. I love this potential. Now you're getting somebody who doesn't miss games.
Yeah,
so,
now we say that. Hopefully we haven't
yeah,
changed
I know.
So he did miss one. He actually missed 2 games. He missed 1 game at Georgia Tech. He was sick. He was not hurt. That's a good thing.
Yeah.
And at Auburn, he missed 2 at Georgia Tech. The second one he missed was when he went in the transfer portal in his second year and he didn't play in the bowl game. So again, 2 games missed, sick for 1, opted out of the other because he was transferring. Hasn't missed any with an injury. And Marcus Davis said it. He doesn't put himself in bad positions. Yeah. And this could be, listen, if they can get this offense going, this could be significant for him because he averaged under 10 yards a catch last year. He needs to show NFL teams that he can get downfield and do things like that. And that offense Auburn was 97th in passing, David. That's it. Went through quarterbacks like you and I go through socks. Okay. You know what I mean?
The fall of Hugh Freeze, that fall. Keith, you got a second?
We're good.
Okay.
We're good.
All right. Here we go. Finish this up. We're going to hear McKnight talk about these freshman wide receivers.
Yeah, I think all 3 of them have been really good so far since we've been here with Davian Gross. Been really impressed. Same thing. He picks it up really well. He's smooth. He's fluid athlete. Like there's times where you're like, hey, you got to strain a little bit more. And then you look up and he won 13 reps in the gauntlet, right? So I think he will become a really good route runner because he's got lower body strength and made up of the right stuff. So high character also. Justin, excited to see because obviously he's transitioning from playing a little bit of everything over at Buchholz for Coach Witt, but excited to see what he's going to do. He does show, especially in the running that we're doing right now, you see some twitch, athleticism, where he can be a good slot for us in this offense. And then Marquez, he's awesome. He's up here probably more than anybody. Good personality, smile on his face. I think just where he is, it's going to take a little bit longer to develop, right? But the great thing about that is you already see it in the weight room, some of the strides that he's made, right? You already see it within some of the stuff of learning what we're doing, that he's making strides. He's hungry, wants to do well, and so honestly really excited about all 3 of those.
Keith, going to one previous point that you brought up and what I'll bring up about these receivers, as good as we've talked about the guys – VB3, Dallas Wilson, the transfers that just come in. If you see Gross, if you see Williams, if you see Daniel on the field, that means they probably went and earned it because Florida's got a pretty good starting, not even to mention the transfers we didn't even really get to. But if you see these guys on the field, I think it means, hey, they went out there and earned a lot because there's a lot of guys in front of them, a lot of good guys in front of them. So if Gross is in the backfield or out wide taking a catch, all right, he went out there and earned it. And then we got it, as you said, we're learning things a little bit. It kind of, I don't know if he let it slip or whatever, but hey, Justin Williams, and I guess we kind of knew this too. We peg him for a slot role. We see him in the slot. So certainly, I like this group. I like that these guys stuck around in the coaching transition. All these guys could have left. I know Gross was thought to maybe be leaning towards Oklahoma before his commitment to Florida. While the coaching transition was happening he decided to come anyway. So this is a group I'm really excited that they stuck around. They trust his staff with the transition, but also just the versatile pieces that they can be.
Yeah, I thought his most telling quote actually was one that we usually charge people for, and that was this quote about Marquez Daniel. He said he's probably a little behind those other 2 guys. Yeah. He wasn't knocking the kid. He was just like looking at both physically and from a receiver polish standpoint, he's probably got a little bit more to go. Not behind in the sense he's playing behind him because sometimes we all forget that there's different receiver positions. There's not every receiver's the same, but that says, hey, he's got some work to do, obviously, and that's okay. Sometimes those guys that play a lot as true freshmen get passed by guys that didn't play at all as true freshmen. Those great Florida receiver classes. I want to say Quezzy not redshirted. I want to say Travis McGriff, I want to say, was redshirted. And by the end, they were all SEC All-America types. But I hope Quezzy was redshirted. I have to look that up. But but Gross. Look, Gross is special. I don't know why he wasn't ranked higher, and we've tried to get to the bottom of it. I think there were some rumors out there, not rumors, but there was some talk that maybe he wasn't 100% healthy in high school, and that might have had something to do with it. So I don't know.
It's funny you bring. I heard that too. So okay,
so we'll see. Right, we'll see. You look, the guy, you go watch his film and you look at the productivity. Okay, stats don't always matter for a receiver. You know why? Because what if a guy doesn't have a quarterback? The great, I mentioned him earlier in the show, good friend of mine in school, Aubrey Hill, great third down receiver for the Florida Gators, played in the wishbone offense at Carroll City. He wasn't going to catch 80 balls, okay? So you're always a product of, as a receiver, what your quarterback can do. But when you go look at those stats, Davian Gross, who, by the way, also had 2,000 rushing yards in high school. And people compare him to Percy Harvin. Okay, there's one Percy Harvin. But you're saying, okay, is there a guy that you're at the high school level against quality competition? And by the way, that Texas region that he played in, very good, just like Percy's region in Virginia. Fast, maybe not Percy Harvin fast, but fast. Could he run the ball? 2,000 yards rushing over his high school career. Could he catch the ball? The productivity was insane. In fact, in the state semifinal game, state finals sort of got shut down a little bit and they lost. But I think in the state semifinals, he had that monster game where they had this huge rally and he scored a bunch of touchdowns and people were just mind blown by what this guy did. So, and also the coaches keep mentioning him. Yeah, that tells me something too. Okay, they keep mentioning him over and over again, and that tells you this is going to be a guy that they're going to probably try to get on the field at some point. And again, David, I think and I hope they're gonna snap the ball a little quicker with more time on the clock. Like they're going to get more plays each week. Well, what does that really mean? Well, it means that could be 6 more catches out there for your young receivers. It could be. It could be more carries for ball. But point being, I think Gross is going to play. But I still think, Dave, I just feel like Justin Williams, and I always felt the same way about Vernell. I love Dallas Wilson, but I love Vernell Brown. And I always felt like Vernell Brown, if he stays 4 years, is going to be like 180 catch to 200 catch guy. I think, and I feel the same way. Now, Justin Williams is going to have a little harder because he's coming in with a better receiver group in front of him than with what Vernell Brown had in front of him when he got there. But Justin Williams, again, productivity, one of the state players of the year as a junior, first player in a few decades since Devin Hester to have 1,000 rushing and 1,000 receiving in the same year. He went wherever Buchholz needed him. They needed him at receiver early in his junior year, had to move him to running back when they couldn't get that going. As a senior, he played more receiver. They were breaking in a new quarterback who's got a lot of potential, but he was still young. And so all of his numbers sort of went down a little bit, but the yards per carry was still solid. And when they needed 100 yards, he'd get you 100 yards. His receiving stats were still off the chart. I mean, the guy just produces. And it wasn't a surprise that he stuck with Florida. This is a guy the day he committed, his parents were out in front of the building in tears. Okay. Like that meant something for him to go to Florida. And I feel like guys, all things equal. Now, if you're a walk-on, maybe if you have my talent or your talent, it might not matter, Dave. But all things equal, Vernell Brown, Chris Doring, now he was a walk-on. The guys that it means a little bit more to, Ricky Natile coming from right down the road. You know what I mean? And so Justin Williams, it probably means a little bit more to him than some of these guys. That's not to downplay the heart that those other guys have, but I just feel like he's so productive. He can do so many things, and I love those. I love those guys. And Daniel's kind of the unknown guy. He's taller, and he's got some time to work into that. They got some tall guys, not as many as they probably wanted, but you got Dallas Wilson. You got some bigger guys out there. And but you're always only an injury or two away from being in a rotation. And Marquez Daniel was a guy that I think Florida held off Auburn to keep. High athleticism, tall. Comes from a very solid football area, Tuskegee. Right along that I-85 from Auburn to Montgomery area. And I just like these 3 guys. But Justin Williams I'm telling you, I wouldn't be surprised when it's all said and done if he's the guy that has the best career out of the group.
There we go. There we go. Keith, quick question. We'll wrap up. I ask myself this question a lot. It is a good concern, so I'll label it that way. Do we have Buster Faulkner longer than 2 years?
Yeah, I don't know. I will say this. He was, if I'm getting my facts correct here, I believe he was a candidate for the Memphis job this winter.
Yep.
And I don't know why that I've heard that maybe it was, again, this is unconfirmed, and we'll have to ask him when he's there, but I think it was maybe some guys want to wait for that big job. Bob Stoops could have left to be head coach at Wofford or Wake. Don't mean to I'm not trashing any further, but you know what I mean. Some guys want to wait, and it can be risky. I know that there was a coach that I know really well that had a chance to get the Arizona and Illinois jobs, and he just didn't think you could do it there. He didn't think there. And so he went somewhere else as a coordinator, a big name program, and a couple years later got fired there. And man, then you're starting all over again. Then I knew a guy at Auburn that was a position coach that turned down a smaller job too. And he did it for the right reasons. Fantastic guy. I won't say his name. Did it for family reasons that I won't get into, but he never got another chance. So there's that dilemma there. Do I take a G5 job, or do I wait it out? But he's so well thought of. He may be thinking, man, I am in the spotlight now.
Yeah, right.
I am in the spotlight. If this thing is humming for a few years, I might be the next coach at Oklahoma or at UCLA, well, whatever.
Like I said, it's a good concern, because if he's only here for 2 years, to me, it means Florida's offense has been humming. Florida's offense has been doing good. And that's how I see it. So, I'd like to have him here for longer, and maybe these mean a lot of success at the same time. But I'm looking at myself. I at least hope 2 years, because I think I love Buster Faulkner. I mean, he was, as soon as I heard he might be interested, sign me up. Because going back when we were talking about Brent Key, it was like, well, what is Brent Key without Buster Faulkner? My worry would be, all right, well, Buster Faulkner stays behind and takes the tech job if Brent Key was leaving. I don't know if they would have hired him or not, but that would have been my concern.
Yeah, absolutely. And you can look at both sides of that. The positive of that is that John Summerall not only was smart enough to go get this guy, and the rumor was always that he was going to go, if he went to Auburn, he was going to try to get him as well. And they felt like, I had people telling me in the middle of the season, hey, Buster Faulkner is going to be at Auburn with John Summerall. So he was smart enough to go get him. So you say, okay, my guy, I have faith in him. If he's smart enough to go get the guy this time, then he's probably going to be smart enough to go get the next up-and-comer. The other thing is, I mean, you hate guys coming and going, except for if they're leaving.
Yep.
That means you're probably winning.
Yep.
I mean, Nick Saban lost more coaches than anybody. Kirby Smart's losing them left and right. Steve Spurrier lost a bunch of them. Or Urban Meyer lost a bunch of them. So that's a good problem to have. And then the other thing is, not only was Summerall smart enough to go pursue him, but there was something about Summerall, the best available OC in the country, who could have gone anywhere probably. There was something in Summerall that he saw and said, I need to be with him. And that's a value too.
Right.
That's telling, right?
I think so.
Yeah.
Keith, good stuff, man. Glad to have you on here.
Hey, we BS'd our way all through the way through the whole thing.
We sure did. We sure did. Funny how we do that every week, every episode.
You sure you don't want me to talk any golf, or you're positive?
All good.
Okay.
Yeah. Keith was on the golf course with the Gators golf. Did you see Summerall? Were you there the same day as Summerall?
I missed him, of course.
Okay.
I missed him, but it was great. It was great out there. And great that he went, by the way. Can I say one more thing, Dave?
Go ahead. Yeah.
I don't know if you and I have talked about this, but Summerall seems to get it, whatever that means. That could be determined. He's showing up at events. He doesn't seem like, and again, this isn't directed toward any past coach, but he doesn't seem like a mercenary. He doesn't seem like a guy that's just coming to Gainesville, pick up his check, go to work, go home. He seems like a guy that's getting out and doing things. And
he said in his opening press conference, they're going to be part of this community.
Showed up at a golf tournament. Well, first of all, there were about 300 people. That was a great turnout. I knew I was going to work that in, but he was out there. But he's showing up everywhere. So either he truly is this, and we don't know. I don't know him that well. I mean, hardly at all. And either he's this truly genuine person that's doing exactly what he said he did because he feels it's the right thing to do, or Dave, and I've said this on my show with Zach, he's smart enough to know how to fake it. Some of these dummies don't even know how to fake it.
Just like we did for the last hour.
Yeah. So I think he gets it. He's immersing himself in the community. And by the way, if people feel like you care, if they feel like you're invested in them and what they're about, they're going to be more invested in you and what you're about. It's that simple. I don't know why some of these guys can't figure this out.
No.
I just don't. And he's figured it out. But I've had multiple people tell me, I've asked them, I go, is this guy really like this? And they swear he is. And if that guy wins, that's special. You get that out of him,
Be here for a while. Be here for a long time. Keith Niebuhr at Niebuhr on 3. That's where you can follow him on social media. Gators Online on 3 Network. Keith, what you guys got going on there? Spring practice just a couple weeks away.
Spring practice a couple weeks away, and also we've Blake Alderman and I are our main one of our two main recruiting guys. We're down in Fort Lauderdale yesterday at a big rivals camp, so we were hanging out with a lot of recruits. There's a lot of Florida buzz down there. I mean, Miami is in a good spot right now because of what the program just did. But Florida is battling with a lot of guys. I talked to a bunch of national reporters this weekend, Dave, and they all say the same thing. They are way more in it with more guys this year than they have been in a while in terms of recruits. And recruiting still does matter. Nothing's more important than the portal, obviously. But when you look at Miami, who are their two best players in that championship game? Malachi Coleman and Mark Fletcher. Well, two of the best. And then Reuben Bain. And they were all products that they signed out of high school. So,
Keith, on that note, like I said, these 5 players that we've had to retain for Florida: Miles Graham, a recruit; Vernell Brown III, a recruit; Dallas Wilson, a recruit; Jaden Ball, a recruit; Jaden Woods, a recruit. We weren't talking about 5 transfers Florida had to keep.
Could you imagine having to replace those guys? And by the way, they only won 4 games last year. Imagine if they had to replace those. Like, just suppose they lost all 5 of those guys. Oh my goodness!
Yeah,
it does. You would have had some fun shows, man.
Oh. It does still matter for sure. All right, Keith Niebuhr, everybody, Gators Online. Be sure to check him out right there for sure. Great work those guys do right there at Gators Online. So for Keith, I am David Waters. Everybody follow me at GatorDave_GB. Everybody out there, thank you for joining us for another episode of Gators Breakdown.